Hello, and welcome to another episode of Architecture for Kids podcast. I'm your host, António Capelão. I'm a trained architect, an architectural educator, and founding director of award-winning Architecture for Kids CIC. In this podcast, I'm going to talk to practitioners and creatives that share the same passion as I do, to inspire and to engage children and young people to shape their built environment and the creative industries. The podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the Built Environment Trust, the Thornton Education Trust, and the Welsh School of Architecture, Cardiff University. My guest today is Bewaji Oyesanya, a member of Build Up's placement team and the organization's advisory board. Build Up is a charity that runs projects across London for young people aged 10 to 23 to design and build public and community spaces. They aim to empower young people to shape where they live and make decisions about London's built environment representative of its communities. Bewaji is a multidisciplinary designer, and she recently completed her Part 1 architecture degree, and she works as a user interface and a user experience designer. With a childhood dream of becoming an architect, she pursued her goal with an unwavering focus, and she has won awards in architecture from Gensler and the RIBA. Alongside her studies, she initiated a food blog and co-founded a successful bubble tea brand, where she excelled as a social media manager and content creator. Bewaji, thank you for coming to talk to me today, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you for having me, Antonio. I'm glad to be here.
So, I always start the episode with a personal question, which is, what subjects were your favorite at school? And what you were good at, in terms of what you were studying, your studies, and, if it's the same thing or different subjects.
So this is actually quite typical. So in primary school, my favorite subject was design technology, kind of like fine art. So it was a mix of fine art. So we did do some drawings, but we also were on the computer, so paint. Don't know if anyone still uses that, anyone still remembers that, but we used paint and make colours and draw shapes. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed making models as well.
Then in secondary school, my favourite subject was geography. And then in college, my A-level, my favourite subject was physics, which is very typical. Like when you think of those three subjects, you're like, oh, that's why she's in architecture. But yeah, those three subjects kind of shaped where I am today. So I definitely kept on that field. Yeah.
So, and when you were growing up, had you a clear idea of what it is that you were going to become, or that you were going to study, rather?
Yeah, very clear, actually. My journey has been so kind of like mapped out. So before like the age of 6, I kind of had different careers in my mind. So I really liked Serena Williams. I wanted to be a tennis player. I wanted to be a teacher. And I remember my family asked me where I was like, oh, because I'm really smart. And I feel like that's not a valid reason. I also wanted to be a model. When I was 6, I believe. So I went to Nigeria when I was 5. I went to visit. And then I went to an architecture practice because my dad's a civil engineer. I was going to visit my uncle with him. Guess they were working on a project, I don't know. Then I saw this model that they had on the table. And I was like, what is that? Like, how did they do that? I just found it so cool. And obviously, as I said, I liked design technology in primary school. So I became very, very intrigued, and they told me it was architecture. So I was like, I think I'm going to be an architect when I grow up. And all the subjects I liked in school and just the journey I continued on kind of like solidified that moment. So yeah, I knew what I wanted since I was like 6 or 5.
So, and it was just by finding a model, finding that model was the defining moment for you?
Yeah, literally. That's my core memory in my brain. I mean, my dad is a civil engineer, so I guess, maybe I did want to be like him, but I don't think so. I think it was definitely finding the model, and like I knew I liked to draw and design things, and I really loved designing things. So I was like, okay, I think this is a career that I should go into. But yeah.
Yeah, and you studied in London, or where did you study?
Yeah, so I currently studied in London. I recently just finished my Part 1 year. But
Well done.
thank you. Before that, I was actually at the University of Liverpool, so I was there for 2 years.
Right.
University, and then I transferred to university in London.
And have you enjoyed the course?
Yeah, I actually have. It's definitely had its ups and downs. Very intense, very hard. Very, very hard course. Very demanding. But yeah, it's been fun.
You don't leave any stone unturned.
Literally, exactly. There's a lot of research that goes into designing things as well. And people just think we draw, but that's not it. There's a lot of like research that goes into it, a lot of thinking, a lot of critical thinking, asking questions. And like obviously with the software we use as well, we can also go into different fields. Like I actually went into UI UX design, and obviously what I do with Build Up now, it's not the typical architecture route.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely feel like architecture has a lot of options that you could go into. So it's definitely a good course for that. Yeah.
How did you end up in Build Up?
So I got an email from a company I'm subscribed to called Black Females in Architecture. And they basically said Build Up was looking for someone, I think was younger than 23 or younger than 25, I don't remember. And they wanted someone to work for them part-time through like a work placement thing. So ideally someone in university or someone that just wanted a part-time job. And that's when I applied. I hadn't actually heard of Build Up before I actually applied. And I applied and I got in, obviously I was happy. But I'd also worked with kids before, so I had a previous kids and architecture background anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice transition basically, yeah.
Yeah. So, and what were you doing with kids before Build Up?
So I was working for a company called Open City. And they have 2 programs called Architecture in Schools. So that basically works with children in schools, so primary schools and secondary schools, trying to get them into architecture, or just helping them understand what architecture is in general. So what I would do is I would work with a person that was more professional than me, so probably a town planner or an actual architect, and then we would help kids come up with designs or like just concepts basically on things in their neighborhood or what we could do. So the last one I did was the kids reimagined Whitechapel Hospital because their school was near Whitechapel Hospital, and then we had an award show for that as well. And I also, the other thing I worked on Open City was called Accelerate, which is a program for kids in college. So A-levels, foundation, BTEC kind of kids, and just helps them to understand architecture as well. So same gist, but different group of kids.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so it's was kind of a study, more of a study program, or to get them sort of into studying to architecture.
Kind of, yes. So we also like kind of taught them as well. We taught them like how to make models. We taught them the typical basis of architecture, so plans, elevation, sections as well. Just giving them basic understanding, depending on their age group, of course.
Yeah. So, kind of the basic, the orthographics and representation for architecture.
Yes.
And, models to the 3Dness and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you find it work? Did you enjoy doing that?
I actually enjoyed it. That's how I knew I actually enjoyed this route of architecture, because I didn't really know what I could do with my degree. Like in my head, it was just a straight architecture route. Mm. But working at Open City, because I was a curatorial assistant, so I worked with every subdivision in that group, so not just kids. But yeah, when I was working with kids, I was like, oh, this is very, very, very interesting. And I didn't have to have completed my 7 years, become accredited architect to do this as well. So yeah, it was definitely interesting and definitely eye-opening as well. With the events I was going to, people I was meeting, still working at Build Up as well. It's just, loads of opportunities that have opened up.
What does Build Up do? And what is Build Up? And what do you do at Build Up?
Build Up is a charity in London that works with young people aged 10 to 23, typically, to design and build public and community spaces for their area. So we usually work with a group of kids, usually through some sort of like youth program or just a school or anything, and we help them design structures for their community. So it could be a playground, it could be a park. So we make things like, we can help them design a tree house or a boat, but it's basically based on what the young people themselves want. Because I believe in inclusive design and community design, you have to actually speak to the community you're working with. So we take the kids because they use the area more, obviously they use the playground more, they use their schools more, they use the community centres more. We speak with them and they come up with a design, and it's usually something they always wanted to do. So whoever we are working with usually invites us and like, oh, the kids want this is what they want to do for this facility, and then we help them come up with their designs and make it real. And then the kids then help on the build, so they cut the wood, they saw, so it's very fun, and I think they really like it. Yeah.
So it's basically a very hands-on process,
Yes.
and the kids sort of participate in that process from the beginning to end.
Yes,
right?
they do actively. Yes.
It'd be interesting to kind of try to understand. Maybe if you could talk about one particular project from beginning to end, and how the whole process sort of happened.
So I'll talk about a project we did with kids in Tottenham Hall. So basically, it was a group of kids that belonged to a community group. This was it varied from different ages. It was about 10 to 18. So typically, we'll take them in between when they're free. So basically, half term or during Easter holidays, Christmas holidays, or any holidays that they have, obviously, because we know that's when we have most of their attention. So we went there. It was me and a few other members of staff. And then how it typically happens is we, say hello, introduce ourselves, and then we ask the kids what they want, what they don't like, and what they like about their current space. So we were working on the playground for this community centre, and that's where the kids usually come and play after school. So they wanted us to reconstruct their tree house. So the tree house was looking quite raggedy. The wood was falling off, the paint was chipping, and they just explained what they wanted more. So they wanted a ladder, they wanted it to be more colourful, they wanted it to look more inclusive, they wanted it to look like a rainbow. And obviously with kids, they have loads of ideas. So we just let them shout out what they want, talk about what they want, like no filter, just say what you want, no holding back. And then we then help them to refine. So for example, let's say a kid said they wanted it to be made out of ceramic. We'll tell them, okay, ceramic is impractical because of this, and this reason. And then that helps them then refine their process. And then all of them agree and usually vote and come up with one idea. Someone then, obviously, because I'm part of the design team, so I help the design staff. We come up with the design. Someone then goes professionally, draws the plans or everything they need and gets all the materials. And then probably the following week or the next holiday, the kids then build with the build professionals. So they're not actively, hammering build, obviously, because that's dangerous,
yes.
But they are part of it still. And then they then build the structure within the week or 2 weeks of that holiday.
What's the team like at Build Up? So you have architects, you have builders, you have
carpenters, woodwork technicians. So there's obviously, I'm not an architect by profession, but I'm a part 1 architecture assistant. So there's people like me, there's people that study design in college, there are people that are good with woodwork and carpentry. So it's a mix of everyone all together. But basically everyone has a design background in general, yes.
Yeah. And is there many of you?
No, we're not that much, to be honest. I believe, so there's 2 main people, the manager and the head of director. So those are the main people that are in the office every day of the week, and the rest of us were just because obviously this happens during school holidays, and it's usually a part-time, quick 4-hour, 8-hour job. So the rest of us just come together when there's a project, basically.
So what are the challenges in this, for Build Up, and in the work you do for Build Up?
I think the main challenge is because we are a charity at the end of the day. So this is usually funded by us or the government or anything. There's lack of funding, so not a lot of people, I wouldn't say not a lot of people, but there aren't a lot of opportunities or funding available for these kind of charities. That's the first obstacle I find. But, we're still working, all is still going well. And I think the second obstacle is, I think the kids turning up or the kids being interested, which is very funny because I realized you can't have kids, you need to really grab their attention when you have it, basically. They can't stay in a place for too long because they get bored, unfortunately. So I think the main challenge will be grabbing their attention and getting them to show up, because sometimes, let's say during exam period, the 18-year-olds or 17-year-olds, we don't see them as much as we'd like to, because obviously they have to study for the exams. So I'll say availability of the kids
What are the other challenges? So we have one is funding, the other one could be attendance. So what else is out there that sort of is challenging for the work that you and Build Up are trying to do?
I would say the weather. Yeah, winter was very hard, I'm not going to lie, because same thing, it affected the attendance of the kids. Because this one time it was really windy, really cold, it wasn't snowing, but people just didn't turn up because, it's cold, after school you just want to go home and rest. The sun was setting early, so for example, when we have to go around the site, do a quick site analysis, see what we can do, see what we can't do, and obviously we want the kids to obviously join on that as well. It's quite hard if there's frost on the ground. It's quite hard if the ground is wet, if the ground is cold. It's quite hard if it's raining as well. So obviously, and the thing is that we have a certain time slot. So if it's, for example, 3 to 6, and it's raining between 3 to 6, it kind of disrupts the plans for the day as well. So
what kind of exercises do they do in terms of for you to understand their ideas, or for them to, as well as before that, for them to express their ideas?
Okay, so typically we'll explain to them what site analysis is, because I know not a lot of people know what it is. I didn't know what it is until I got into first year, to be honest. So explain to them that we're just going to look at the site, look at what we can do, what we can't do, the opportunities and the constraints of the site. And then with the kids, we just we typically give them 3 pieces of paper, things they like about the site or their community or their area, things they hope, things they could improve, rather, and things they want to happen there. So more ideas basically. So the kids usually go around and then they write on their piece of paper. And if some kids can't write, they will tell them to us and we'll write them down for them. And then we go back into our little room or whatever space we're meeting. Everyone throws out their ideas, and usually what happens is they usually have similar ideas anyway. Then we write them down on the board, and then we talk about them, and then we usually get them to design, so probably a collage or a sketch or a painting, whatever thing you want to do. Total liberation of art, so they do whatever they want to do, and then I think that encourages the kids to use their creativity, because you get a lot of kids saying oh, miss, I can't draw, I'm not really good at art, and I'm just you don't necessarily have to be good in terms of grades, right? It's just do what you want to do. Art is very subjective, and that really, I've seen a lot of kids grow from that. They get a lot of confidence from doing that, so they end up doing their art and then they explain it to us, and everyone's just really different. Everyone draws in a different way, everyone paints in a different way, so it's so fun and interesting to see what the kids can come up with. And then they go around explaining them to us. Sometimes we have a mini presentation and they explain what they want, and then that helps us further refine their ideas. And then what happens is a member of Build Up then goes home and just draws a quick or a sketch or a plan of what the kids were trying to what the kids were trying to communicate with us, and then that helps us then build a project. So yeah, that's how it typically goes.
So do they make models as well? Yeah,
they do. So the one of the ones I recently did, it was in Stone Grove, which is in Harrow, I believe. And that was also a community centre. Well, actually, architects actually helped come in on that one as well. So what we had to do was design a plan or redesign for the little play area that the kids had. So it was connected to the car park as well. It was quite new. So we had to design that. So what we did, we then got a model. So someone went home, so Yinka, he designed a mini cardboard site model. So just paper, colours of how the site looks like. And then we put up a picture of the site as well. So the kids were familiar with it. And obviously this happened after 3 visits, so the kids knew what we were doing. So we made a site model. And then from what the kids wanted, so they wanted more. The kids always want more play, so they wanted an obstacle course and separation between the boys and the girls. And when they say boys and the girls, they mean football and other activities, because the boys were playing football and it was just one big plot of land. So they wanted separation there. So what Yinka did and what we did together, we then divided the plot, designed what the kids wanted, with little cardboard pieces, and then when we came in to work with the kids, we got them to stick down what they wanted. So it was very interactive and very fun. So yeah, we made a big model. But at first, before we did that, we did a shoebox model with them. So just taking the shoebox cover and sticking with what they wanted. So, we had a Haribo statue there. Don't know how he designed that, but he made it very clear it was a Haribo bear. We had like a picnic area of food. So that's how we made it.
Because and how do you find that is it easier for them to make models? What is it easier? Drawing? Do they make drawings as well? Do they draw in your workshops?
Yes, they do. So I think it just depends on the child, because every individual is very different. Some prefer drawing, and some prefer model making as well. But both are very hands-on activities, and like I said earlier, kids, you need to really grab their attention, and you need to keep it fun for them.
Yeah.
So I find that they find those activities very fun. Even on the Stone Grove project, when I was just talking about, we actually got them to go to the park. It was very cold that day, so that some people left mid session because they just found it too cold. But anyway, we got them to basically bring out things that they had around, so different play toys that they had, and kind of build what they wanted. So it was like 1-to-1 basically, even though it wasn't real, but we could get the gist. So they might put a stick in the ground and say this is a climbing pole, and we just understand what they're doing. So I find that when we get them to do activities like that, it really grabs their attention and they find that really fun.
More hands-on stuff, isn't it?
Yes, hands-on.
The incentive. And do you play with incentives as well? And what are those incentives?
I think the incentive is the final project, the fact that they could build on the project. Actually, a lot of them are excited about having to actually make the project and build the project. So I guess that's their individual incentive. So I'll say the incentive is them having to make something for their community.
Yeah, and tell me something. This work that you do, or you and Build Up do with kids, is kind of aligned with the curriculum, with the national curriculum?
To be honest, I'm not really sure if it follows the curriculum. I don't want to bite my tongue here. But if we're asking, should it be in the curriculum? Definitely. I definitely believe it should be, because I believe the arts, as we all know, the arts are kind of becoming lost in our generation at the moment. So I definitely believe it should be part of the curriculum. In what schools, and we have worked with schools as well, so I guess it was part of their fine art curriculum. So we do follow that when we work with the school, but obviously some are not in school, so it just depends.
How do you think the work we're doing and the work you are doing is kind of perceived, and what is the impact of this work, as well as what's the relevance?
Good question. In terms of how it's perceived, I think it just depends on the group you're thinking of, if that makes sense. Because I know, the world is becoming very technological. Everything's on computer, digital based. So obviously, because we are hands-on, I feel like some people might overlook that and say, this isn't as important as, learn how to use a computer. But I think both are important anyway. And I think the impact, obviously, as I said earlier, it's kids, gaining more confidence in themselves and being able to say, I did that, I did this for my community, I did this for my playground. So I definitely think it helps the kids, it boosts their self-esteem. It just, and it's something they can talk about for life, basically. So I definitely think the impact is important, and I definitely think the work we all do, like us working with kids, is very, very important, because obviously that's the future generation, and we need to impact them with the knowledge that we think they need, of course. Yeah.
Well, and I was just thinking back at what you said earlier when we started this conversation, which was walking into this room where you saw the model at 6 years of age.
And exactly.
You found out you wanted to be an architect.
Yes.
So I suppose, this is kind of an opportunity like that, I suppose, for these kids. The perception of this work, what do you think people think about the work we do, or the work you do, in your case, in Build Up?
I think from my experience anyway, I've had very positive experiences. When we tell people what we do, everyone's really thrilled and well done. You're doing this for our community, you're doing this for our generation. So I've seen a positive impact. But when you look at stuff online, you see things saying that, the arts should be defunded, as we all know. That's what people say. And the budgets are being cut. So, it depends on the group we are speaking of. But in general, I do believe it's kind of a 50-50 thing. Some people think it's relevant, some people think it's not. Right. It's not.
Do you think things are changing? And if they are, in which way?
I think I think because we had the lockdown because of COVID, the relevance for community and building together and just networking in general became more apparent, because all we had was our local communities. We couldn't really go out. All we had was stuff we had indoors. So I think because of COVID, people, the hype has become more prominent as to why we need things like this. Mm-hmm. That's what I think anyway.
Right. So you're saying that after the pandemic, we became more hands-on, or we became more community-driven, or both?
Both actually became more hands-on and community-driven. People realised how much they need their communities, and people became more hands-on in their work, because obviously, I guess, we were stuck inside for so long. We then realised the importance of actually touching things and doing things hands-on. So yeah.
If we were to sort of leave a reflective note on the work you do for people to consider and to think about and the impact, what is it, is there something you want to summarize?
Our main ethos is encouraging young people. I'll say that our aim, motto and ethos is to encourage young people to build things for the community and basically let them know that what they do is important, because I feel like when you're young, you kind of feel your voice is not as relevant as the grown-ups per se. So I'll say Build Up definitely helps that, and just people that work with kids in general in this kind of field. We help them, and we help them to believe in themselves and just help them grow and let them know the different, courses and different careers they can take in life.
Sort of inspire them to make their own choices,
yes,
to be informed and make their own choices, or informed choices.
Yeah, and their voice matters. Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Give them voice.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a question that I should have asked you, or that you would like me to have asked you that I didn't? And what is that question?
No, Antonio, I think you asked me everything relevant on top of my head.
All right, so I have another question. One more question for you then. Are you really going to become an architect?
Oh, I mean, I would love to. That's the goal. That's the plan.
And what is a real architect?
Well, an architect's a person who has completed 5 years of formal education and 2 years of working placement and then taking their Part 3 exams. That's what an architect is in the UK. So I've just finished my Part 1. Hopefully, I'm working towards getting a Part 1 job. Then I can do my Masters in Architecture. Then I can do my exam. But I'm also a UI UX designer. I'm also working doing humanitarian work with charities like Build Up. So I could wear many hats. But yes, the primary goal is to be an architect.
Yeah. Well, I wish you well with that. And
Thank you very much.
And you know that the architecture career, the architectural studies are changing.
Yes, they are.
So, we have 3 parts,
yeah.
But that is actually going to change. So I think, sort of in the next 10 years, there will be a big change, if not before that.
Yeah.
And I think, I wish you very well with your careers and with your studies. Thank you. All your endeavors. And it's been a great pleasure to talk to you and find out about what you're doing and what Build Up is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Antonio. This was fun, enlightening. I'm glad I was able to speak on this and just shed more light on what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much to my guests today, to all the listeners, and please subscribe to Architecture for Kids podcast and leave your rating and a review. Recommend us to your friends and family. And to find out more about it, visit our websites, antoniocaplan-portfolio.co.uk, buildingcentre.co.uk, thorntoneducationtrust.org, cardiff.ac.uk, and follow us on Instagram, Arch for Kids CIC, Twitter, @Kaplan, LinkedIn, @Kaplan, CAPELAO. And please join me again next week for another episode of Architecture for Kids podcast, brought to you in collaboration with the Built Environment Trust, the Thornton Education Trust, and the Welsh School of Architecture, Cardiff University.